Hello and welcome to the F1 News Zone, the show round up all the biggest stories in Formula 1 right now. We are currently in the Canadian Grand Prix weekend, so let's have a look at what's been making the headlines this week in Montreal. This week, Formula 1 has revealed its 2026 calendar. IndyCar champion Alex Palou has ruled out a move to Formula 1, and we go through all of the main talking points from qualifying in Montreal. If you're watching on YouTube, skip to the timestamp in the video description to watch the story that you are most interested in. So without further ado, let's dive in. Alright everyone, so the 2026 Formula 1 calendar has been revealed this morning by the FIA. A lot of changes that we expected were going to happen have happened. There are a few asterisks attached to this calendar, but this is what we can basically expect next year when it comes to Formula 1. There are still 24 rounds on the calendar, but a popular race has been omitted, and one that is probably going to be pretty unpopular has joined the calendar. So I'm just going to go through the calendar for you guys now. There's a lot have actually stayed the same in terms of their places on the calendar, but I'll just very quickly run through the actual calendar in terms of the order of the races. There's a full article over on the f1chronicle.com if you want to see all the dates of them, get some quotes and all like that, but I'll just very quickly run down the order. So we start the season in Australia, then we head to China, Japan, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Miami, Canada, which is a change from this year, of course, because instead of pairing up Canada and Miami, they go back to Europe and then they come back to North America. So in this one, they actually stay in North America, albeit there are 3 weeks between the Miami and Montreal Grand Prix. We then return to Europe for Monaco. Barcelona is confirmed, although what that race is going to be called is not yet confirmed. It could be the Barcelona Grand Prix, the European Grand Prix, it could be the Catalan Grand Prix. That's all unconfirmed as of the time of recording. Then we go to Austria, Silverstone, Spa for the Belgian Grand Prix, Hungary, the Netherlands for the final Dutch Grand Prix in Formula 1. They have confirmed that 2026 will be the last Formula 1 race hosted around Zandvoort. Italy, then we go to the Mad Ring for Madrid, the final European round of the season. I know Baku might be in Europe, but you know what I mean, traditional Europe anyway, not on the edges. Then we head to Baku for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, Singapore, the USGP at Austin, Mexico City, Brazil. Las Vegas retains its place on the calendar. Las Vegas was out of contract at the end of this year, but it's going to continue in Formula 1 for the foreseeable future. And then the final 2 rounds of the season are Qatar and the UAE for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. We start the Formula 1 season between the 6th and the 8th of March at Melbourne in Australia, and we finish it between the 4th and 6th of December at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Like I said, the major changes really are the fact that Imola is now off the calendar. That has been confirmed. It has been replaced by the Mad Ring, the new home of the Spanish Grand Prix. It is subject to FIA homologation, but it will pass. It will inevitably pass. They never not pass. They always pass in these regards. And that will be the round after the Italian Grand Prix, towards the end of the European season. But aside from that, and Montreal coming earlier into the season, not a whole lot has changed really with the order there. Yeah, it's very disappointing to see Imola off the calendar there, the end of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, but it's also not a surprise in the slightest really. Formula 1, of course, chases the money, and there's not enough money in Italian motorsport right now, for whatever reason. Yeah, guys, that is the calendar. Like I said, there is a full article over on the f1chronicle.com if you guys want to check it out. Get your thoughts across on there. Get your thoughts across in the comments as well. So we spoke about Alex Palou a couple weeks ago on the channel and how he doesn't really see a point in moving to Formula 1 right now. So for those who aren't aware, those who don't follow IndyCar too closely, Alex Palou is absolutely dominant right now in the IndyCar series. He's won 3 of the previous 4 championships, and he looks like he's going for a 4th victory in the championship in a row. He's absolutely dominated this season, albeit he did crash out last time at Detroit, but he's been incredible so far this season, winning all but 2 races. That one where he retired, of course, in Detroit, and the other one where he finished in 2nd place at the Thermal Club. But he's now come out publicly and said that switching to Formula 1 would be a waste, even if it was to the new Cadillac Formula 1 team, which is joining the grid next year in 2026. But What has the Spaniard said about this? As always, guys, I've got the full story here on the F1chronicle.com. Alex Palou thinks that switching to Formula 1 would be a waste of his most competitive years. The 2025 Indy 500 winner, who is already en route to his 4th IndyCar championship this year, was recently linked with a potential Cadillac F1 seat for 2026. However, he has swiftly rejected the idea. Even if they say, no, don't worry, you can come back in 1 or 2 years, what if suddenly everyone is here and I'm never able to catch up to them? He recently told the Indianapolis Star newspaper. Palou flirted with a move to F1 some years ago, but it ultimately turned into a bitter contractual dispute between his IndyCar team Chip Ganassi and McLaren, and that case is very much still going on, as I covered a little while ago on the channel. I'm glad I was able to make peace with Chip Ganassi after all that drama, the 28-year-old Spanish driver has told Germany's Automotor und Sport. As for whether another opportunity in F1 may crop up, Palou hinted that he feels somewhat disrespected by figures such as James Vowles of Williams and Ferrari boss Frederic Vasseur. Automotor und Sport asked Palou if he laughs at Vowles' suggestion that he needs at least a full year of F1 testing, or Vasseur's view that the Spaniard has been forgotten. Absolutely, Palou agreed. But let's not misunderstand each other. I love Formula 1 and it was obviously my dream. The timing just isn't right now. Why should I waste 3 or 4 years with a team that can't win? That's not my idea of racing. I want to fight for victories, especially at the Indy 500 and for championships. That's the only way I'll be happy. As for the Cadillac rumours, Palou said, it's being primarily led by the fans. I'm following it quite calmly from the perspective of an F1 spectator. Yeah, it does seem as though Palou is not going to go for that move, which is not a huge surprise. It was a bit of an aspirational one to think that Palou would want to go to Cadillac, and I get it. I understand he wants to be winning, and, you know, if he joins Cadillac, he's not going to be winning in Formula 1, you know. They might well do well in Formula 1. I don't doubt it. I think they're going to do a pretty good job overall, I'd say. But, you know, to expect them to win anytime soon is going to be so tough, you know. I think even getting solid points is going to be a big ask for them, particularly in their early years. So I understand it. I respect him if he did it, though, because he's now won the Indy 500. He's checked off that last piece of the IndyCar championship. You know, he's won the championship 3 times. He's going to win it a 4th this time around in 25. I'd respect him more if he moved to Formula 1. Tried his hand at something different. Doesn't have to be F1. You know, try Le Mans or something like that. You know, try World Endurance Championship. Try and do the Triple Crown. It's going to be very difficult, obviously, for him to do that. But he could definitely win Le Mans, 100%. I can definitely see that happening one day. But it does seem as though the Formula 1 door has shut, guys. But who are Cadillac Racing going to go for next year? I personally think it's probably going to be Sergio Perez and, by the sounds of things, Colton Herta or someone like that. If he can get the super license points, I think he's a good bet for it. But your thoughts in the comments are appreciated on this as always, guys. So Max Verstappen very much is treading on eggshells, or to use a bit of a hockey phrase, probably on a bit of thin ice right now when it comes to Formula 1. If he has any incident in the next 2 races in Canada and also Austria, then he of course could get some penalty points, and if he gets 1 penalty point on his license, he is banned for the following race. Now, of course, the situation does get better after that, but interestingly, even after that, he has to go all the way until late October. He will have to go all the way to, I believe it's October 27th, without getting 3 more points on his license. So 2 points will be taken off after the next 2 rounds, but he's going to have 9 points on his license until at least late October, around the time of the USGP and Mexico. So very much he has to be careful. But despite that, he's very much openly saying in the press that he is not going to change how he drives. He's not going to change his approach to Grand Prix racing. So let's have a look what's been said on this guy's full article on the F1chronicle.com, as always. With a race ban looming if he collects just 1 more penalty point, Max Verstappen is adamant that his driving style will remain unchanged heading into Canadian and Austrian Grand Prix. The reigning Formula 1 champion enters the weekend on thin ice after his run-in with George Russell at the Spanish Grand Prix bumped his penalty points up to 11. 1 more in the next 2 races and Verstappen would face a 1-race suspension, something that has never happened in his F1 career. It's very rare that it's happened in Formula 1 in general recently. I mean, Kevin Magnussen last year, you know, that was the first race ban since Romain Grosjean got one back in 2012. Despite the risk, Verstappen says that he won't be dialing things down. No, nothing changes, no. Verstappen told reporters, I cannot just back out of everything. I'm just going to race like I always do. I trust myself. Is it fair that I'm on 11 points? I don't know. But at the same time, life isn't fair. I don't worry about it. I just come here and race, and I will always race hard. He added, I'm not here, of course, to try and get a ban. FIA stewards can issue penalty points for a variety of on-track infractions, from causing collisions to breaching safety car protocols. Accumulating 12 within a 12-month span leads to an automatic one-race suspension. Pressed on whether he believes the current total is fair, Verstappen says, I don't need to go into that, to be honest. I mean, what is fair? If you look at it like that, I don't worry about it. I just come here to race, and I will always race hard. Race how I think I should race, and then we go on to the next race. The incident in Spain, which saw Verstappen forcefully cut into Russell's car, sparked criticism. Initially, Verstappen showed little remorse publicly, but shortly afterwards, he addressed the clash on social media, acknowledging that it was not right and it shouldn't have happened. Explaining that post ahead of the Canadian Grand Prix, Verstappen said, the post was sharing my view of things, how I thought the race panned out. Not ideal for me, but that was my statement, and then I went back to enjoying my day. It was a misjudgment, clearly in the corner, but you don't need to go into full detail of why, how and what. Everybody makes mistakes in life, everybody learns from them, and we just move on. Currently sitting third in the Drivers' Championship standings, Verstappen trails McLaren's Oscar Piastri by 49 points. I mean, like I said at the time, Verstappen, he normally knows the rule book inside and out. He normally knows how far he can push things, but on that occasion, he went too far, and he's even admitted that. Move on from it. I'm not, there's no point just wailing on the guy just for making a mistake like that. It was a clear error in judgment, and he's apologised for it. He said he, shouldn't have done it, basically. So it's one of them things. But the fact remains that he's 1 point away from a ban, which, like I said at the time, he'd be the first champion to get a race ban in Formula One since Michael Schumacher back in 94, I think it was. It's been that long. I can't think of another, aside from that, a champion anyway. It's very rare that we get any kind of race bans anyway. Grosjean 13 years ago and Magnussen last year. That's kind of it over the last, 15 years or so. So yeah, your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Can Verstappen keep his cool? Will he be able to avoid a penalty? He says he's not going to change his approach, which I don't think that's the wrong thing to do. I think that's fair enough. He always goes into Grand Prix weekends the same way, and it's worked for him very well. He's won a lot of them. He's won like 60 odds. So, the thing that he needs to control is the rage, and whether he can control that, if there is another rage-inducing situation like he had in Spain, where a number of different factors conspired to very much make him angry in the car, will he be able to control it? I don't think he can. But the likelihood of that happening in the next two races is relatively low, With this hanging over him, with him knowing that if he does something like that again, he's going to get a race ban, I would like to think that he would control himself, but we'll see what happens, guys. Interesting statement from the former long-time sporting director at Red Bull Racing, Jonathan Wheatley. Wheatley, of course, has joined Sauber, who are going to become Audi for next season, and he's left Red Bull when the team very much were in absolute chaos behind the scenes. And he's come out with a really interesting statement here, basically saying that the way Sauber is run is better in some areas than Red Bull. Red Bull, the team that have won 4 Drivers' Championships on the bounce, that have won 2 Constructors' titles in recent times as well. And if you go back to the days of Sebastian Vettel, of course, they won 4 apiece of those. But let's have a look at what he said here, though, because, at the moment, it does seem as though Red Bull behind the scenes are very chaotic, On the track, they've got one of the best cars, but off it, there's a lot of craziness happening, so let's have a look at what Wheatley's had to say about his switch to Sauber. Audi-owned Sauber is already better in some areas than Red Bull. That's the astonishing claim of Red Bull's former long-time sporting director, Jonathan Wheatley, who amid the Christian Horner-related turmoil last year, decided to accept an offer to be the new Audi team boss. This year, Sauber is in full transition ahead of its rebranding as the Audi Works team for 26 and beyond. However, the overall Audi boss Mattia Binotto warned several days ago that the German marque may not emerge with a fully competitive works engine next year. Indeed, Sauber has spent several years languishing at the bottom of the standings, although Nico Hülkenberg's B5 in Barcelona offered some hope. and sent Alpine to the bottom of the standings. Lol. We want to be fully operational by 2030, said team boss Wheatley. And I'm pretty sure that Binotto as well, I think he has come out and said that they want to be challenging for the championships by 2030, which, as a brand as big as Audi are, that is what they have to be aiming for. They do have the classic 5-year plan. They're trying to 3 words that any football fan will know, the 5-year plan, but they've very much got one. We have the most important ingredient for this. Our people are not only capable, but also highly motivated and passionate about their work. That was a surprise to me, the Britain told Germany's Sport Bild. Because the past few years haven't been easy, it would be easy to let our shoulders slump, but the people are full of enthusiasm. We now need to channel this energy into the right direction. It is believed some acrimony still exists between Wheatley's former boss at Red Bull, Christian Horner. The pair now go toe-to-toe in the F1 team principals meetings. When asked if he learned anything from Horner, Wheatley answered, "It wasn't just Christian, many people influenced me. I've had great managers and bad ones. I combine the experiences I've had as my time as a mechanic, sporting director, and ultimately with the things I'm experiencing now. I'm still learning every day. My most important rule is and always will be, meet and treat everyone the way you want to be treated. I know the responsibility I bear and I want to lead the way. Things will go wrong, but we mustn't let ourselves be deterred from our course." What is relatively clear is that Wheatley brings a lot of experience from Red Bull about how to structure a truly title-winning team. When asked what Audi can learn from Red Bull, he insisted it's about establishing clear processes. We need to make it clear to people where they stand, where their responsibilities begin and end, and what the reporting structure looks like. But by no means is everything bad. There are actually things that are running better here already than what I'm used to at Red Bull. One example he explains is the handling of traffic during qualifying. Communication with the operations room at the factory during Grand Prix is also improving. These things can make all the difference, and what I'm seeing gives me confidence. Interesting stuff from Mr. Wheatley. So there you go. I mean, that doesn't really scream to me as a dig at Red Bull. It just screams to me as being, well, not screams, but it just says to me that, you know, Sauber are being run well in some regards right now. I mean, I would say personally they have the worst car on the grid, but clearly their strategy department is working pretty well. You know, they are ahead of Alpine in the Constructors' Championship, and I'll highlight that for as long as that's going to be the case. I don't expect it to be the case for too much longer. But, you know, they are clearly overperforming, I would say, Sauber, at least in the hands of Nico Hülkenberg. Gabriel Bortoleto, he's still finding his feet in Formula 1. This will be a learning year for him, no doubt. And I'd like to see him score points, but I don't expect it in that car either because, frankly, it's not good enough, really. But somehow, the Hulk is absolutely smashing it. And that's the last pun I'm going to do in this video. But, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. Are Red Bull going to fall apart? Because that's my big question here, because you look at what's happened to them in terms of their staff. Wheatley's gone. He was a key sporting director. You've got Newey. He's gone to Aston Martin. Verstappen may well go one day too. You never know. And if Verstappen goes, there's kind of just Christian Horner left at that point of the so-called dream team in a sense. You know, the team that dominated Formula 1 for a very short period. I'm not talking about, they're not on the level of Ferrari's dream team from back in the day, of course, but you know what I mean. It just seemed like everybody there was working so well. Even Perez got a runner-up in the Drivers' Championship in 23, I think it was, or 22, one of the two. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, guys. All right, everyone, qualifying for the 2025 Canadian Grand Prix was on earlier today, so let's have a look at the main things that we learned from what was a bumper, incredibly eventful qualifying session with a huge surprise result that I don't think anybody really saw coming, especially when it came to the two guys on the front row. But let's go through this whole session because it was very eventful, not least for the Williams team. Not a good one for them today, unfortunately, but not all of it was their own fault. In fact, very little of it really was their fault. Let's speak about Alex Albon first of all. Now, we saw some debris down the back straight and we didn't know where it came from. We were wondering what was going on, and it turns out it was from Alex Albon's car. His entire engine cover just blew off, basically. Now, we have seen this a few times in Formula 1. We're not seeing it for a good few years now, but basically, while the cars are doing 200, 210 miles an hour down that back straight, which some of the cars were this weekend, and I imagine Williams definitely one of those as well, very much famed for their straight line speed with that Mercedes engine, but the whole Mercedes engine was literally uncovered. It was revealed because, yeah, the engine cover just blew off basically at full load. It caused a red flag. They changed it, and, you know, Albon actually managed to get through to Q2 as a result. But before the qualifying session restarted, it was absolutely thrown into chaos in terms of the order, where guys couldn't complete their laps. We had some people really far up the order, and Fernando Alonso was actually topping the times at that point in Q1 on the medium tyres, no less. A bit of a prelude to what we would see later on in the session. The medium tyres being absolutely incredible around Canada, not unlike what we saw at Imola quite some time ago. The C6 being run again this weekend, I do believe. The softest of the soft compound tyres available to Pirelli in their range. But yeah, Alex Albon got through to Q2, but Carlos Sainz did not. However, it wasn't really his fault. He was looking like he was going to get into Q2, set a lap time that was much better, but he was blocked. He was balked by Isaac Hadjar, very, very obviously. And yeah, Hadjar will get a penalty for that. The standard for the penalty for that is 3 places. But the great injustice, really, of that is the fact that Carlos Sainz will start behind Isaac Hadjar, even if it's a 3-place penalty. Even if it's like a 5-place penalty, he will still start behind him. Sainz, of course, qualifying, I think it was P17 in the end for him. Really bad day for him. He's just got it all to gain, really. He's just going to try and go for it, really, at that point. But Isaac Hadjar ended up getting through to Q3, and yeah, even with a 3-place penalty, he's going to be P12, so he's going to be very much ahead of Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz absolutely fuming, didn't want to answer any questions in the interview after that session. I don't really blame him too much. I mean, has to have your entire weekend potentially destroyed by that one thing. I'd be fuming too. Let's talk about these medium tyres. They were absolutely golden around Canada today. A few different teams were experimenting with them, but the top 2 today, a surprise top 2, went with them in Q3. George Russell again got pole position at Canada, second year in a row. Verstappen again got P2 in qualifying at Canada, second year in a row. This time, though, a slightly larger gap between the two of them. Of course, 12 months ago, we saw them be separated by nothing. They had set the exact same time to 1,000th of a second. This time, though, there was a time gap. But yeah, given what happened at the previous round in Spain, it's going to be very spicy heading into turn 1 between these two, especially with how George Russell very much laid down the gauntlet. He made a joke about Max Verstappen's penalty points and the fact that he's only 1 penalty point away from getting a race ban. He spoke to Jacques Villeneuve after the session was completed and said something along the lines of, well, I've got more penalty points to play with, so I'll be fine. Basically alluding to the fact that Verstappen cannot have an incident, he cannot have a crash, because if he does, then he's going to be in serious trouble and potentially miss the next race in Austria. But it's going to be spicy. Those two, they say they're friends, but on the track, they are not friends. Absolutely not. They do not like each other on the track for sure. But where were the McLarens? What happened to McLaren? Well, McLaren have been kind of off it all weekend, really. I mean, yeah, Lando Norris did get fastest time overall in free. Yeah, Lando Norris did admittedly have a better session in free practice 3, but McLaren still not looking their usual selves. They look absolutely dominant normally in free practice, and it gets a bit closer during qualifying, but it didn't really go that way this time at all. Like I said, they were some way off in free practice, and during this session, I mean, Lando Norris in particular, P7, he had an issue on his first lap, wasn't able to actually make a competitive first lap time on his flying lap. Oscar Piastri, he did get some good laps in, but he just wasn't quick enough. Those soft tyres are not as quick on the McLaren as the mediums were over 1 lap on the Mercedes of Russell, nor the Red Bull of Max Verstappen. So McLaren, with it all to do, they will need their race pace to have a chance of taking victory tomorrow. But I want to shout out my man, Fernando Alonso. E6 again doing bits in qualifying, and again I believe he was on the medium tyres. He was definitely running the mediums through most of qualifying today, and to see him up in P6 is absolutely great. And who's he alongside on the 3rd row? He's alongside Sir Lewis Hamilton, who got P5 today, so it's going to be very spicy, very much. Some big rivalries there in terms of the guys that are next to each other on the grid. But yeah, those are my 5 main takeaways from qualifying today, guys. What were yours? Let us know in the comments below. Like, share, comment, subscribe if you want to see more like this on the channel, guys. A fantastic day wherever you're in the world today, and we'll see you very soon.